Welcome to Amaka Intellectual Factory, where I host podcasts and many other interesting stuff. So today I'm gonna be reading an article from my website titled amakaintellectualfactory.com. You're more than welcome to visit my website. Actually, I encourage you to visit my website right after listening to this amazing video. And in this video, the article that I'm gonna be reading from my website is titled, Black America, Do Not Lose Sleep Over President Trump's DEI Executive Orders. Here's why. Without much ado, let's dive right in. DEI is an abbreviation for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is part of the result of the civil rights movement that took place in the United States from the 1950s to the 1960s to end racial segregation and discrimination, particularly against Black Americans. But it is not the same thing as affirmative action. The general purpose of DEI should be self-explanatory and thus will not be further broken down in this article. President Donald J. Trump was sworn into the office of the President of the United States of America on January 20, 2025. In his inaugural address, he highlighted a number of executive orders he would be signing immediately. President Trump expressed his preference for a United States based on a merit system as opposed to DEI programs. True to his words, President Trump passed executive orders putting federal DEI employees on paid leave. Since then, President Trump has taken other actions against DEI, and rightfully so. The fact of the matter is that Black Americans are the least favored by DEI programs. The predominantly Afro-Caribbean, Hispanic, Southeast Asian, and South Asian U.S. workforce is a testament to that. The so-called blacks you find in these workforce places are mainly Afro-Caribbeans and maybe a few Africans here and there. Based on my personal experience and observation, a lot of these blacks, especially Afro-Caribbeans, do not have the interest of Black Americans at hand. What can Black America claim to have benefited from Karine Jean-Pierre's tenure as the first Black person to serve as the White House press secretary? If you look up her biography, it conveniently does not mention her Haitian origin, even though her last name is a dead giveaway. Opal Tometi of Black Lives Matter passes herself off as an American. When she wants to talk about her ethnic origins, she mostly reveals her Nigerian heritage and conveniently hides or not mention her Afro-Caribbean heritage at all. Yet Black Lives Matter still has not accounted for the millions of dollars they collected while passing themselves off as Black people's advocates in the US. Over and over again, I see in the US workforce that Black Americans are greatly underrepresented and even outrightly disenfranchised from these DEI programs. When it comes to DEI, there is an Afro-Caribbean factor, especially Haitians, and then Jamaicans to some extent. Based on my experience with these people in Los Angeles, I knew President Trump was onto something when he talked about Haitians. Black America has a historical Haitian, Jamaican, and Afro-Caribbeans at large problem that they have never really addressed. Now, this is a little digression. I would be discussing historical evidence of the devastating consequence of Haitian migrants to Black America. You would hear the words of the people who investigated and wrote about it, not my words. I can only imagine that this same demography of blacks, in their usual fashion of gang stalking and witchcraft attacks, went after President Trump, but they misfired and picked on the wrong person. They should have done their research and thought twice before targeting President Trump. You cannot bully him, and he has the resources and connections to fight back. My experience in Los Angeles has forced me to develop a great interest in Afro-Caribbeans. They are by far the most animated group of Black people I have ever encountered. And for whatever reason, a lot of them tend to work hand in glove with Hispanics in their sinister schemes. Just like Black Americans typically say, all skin folks ain't keen folks. Afro-Caribbeans are different from Black Americans. While Black Americans were fighting for their civil liberties in the US, Afro-Caribbeans were advocating for communism and Marxism. Patrice Cullors of Black Lives Matter is on video admitting to being a trained Marxist.
He was concerned, or is concerned, that that there's a lack of perhaps ideological direction in Black Lives Matter that would allow it to fizzle out, as he said, in comparison to Occupy Wall Street. As you are advanced in your own organization, as you all are headed to Cleveland to participate in this Black Lives Movement conference, how do you respond to that particular critique? Again, a loving critique from an elder of the struggle that some others share, that I've even shared as well, to be frank, as a concern about, in part because of the co-optation and the appropriation, that a more clear ideological structuring might be of some value here. But how do you respond to those kinds of, again, loving criticisms?
I think that the criticism is helpful. I also think that it might, I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
This Afro-Caribbean, pro-socialist, pro-communist movement most likely was a driving force for a lot of the coups that plagued Africa in the 60s and 70s. At that time, African leadership was very young. A lot of our African leaders were in their 20s and 30s and very impressionable. Without a shadow of a doubt, they were being indoctrinated into communist ideologies. You can check out my videos on the Nigerian Biafran War on my channel, where I break down Major Adewale Ademoyega's book titled Why We Struck, the story of the first Nigerian coup. Major Ademoyega was pro-communist. This is why you have famous Nigerians like Seun Kuti, the son of the late Fela Kuti, advocating for socialism and communism unapologetically. I have found that this influence is mostly coming from Afro-Caribbeans. In Nigeria, I remember when the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, was removed from office, and how part of the allegations against him were his constant trips to the Caribbean. But then I digress. If you are interested in knowing more, and you should be, subscribe to my channel and website and get as many people you care about as possible to subscribe to my channel and website. Now, back to topic. Afro-Caribbeans are the greatest Black beneficiaries of DEI. I can only imagine how deeply they have penetrated the US federal employment. It is a lot for me to put together myself. Consciousness of Afro-Caribbeans and their peculiarities is something that I'm still grappling with. I doubt their blood-sacrificing religions, which they always claim is African, is actually African. I cannot wrap my head around their fascination with light-skinned Black people, which I strongly suspect is behind the dark-skin, light-skin wars of Black America. Talk about a cultural shock. They are indeed peculiar, with all their voodoo, witchcraft, Santeria, and zombies. I do not want to digress too much, but the fact of the matter is that when it comes to DEI, Afro-Caribbeans, especially Haitians, are overwhelmingly favored among all other types of Black people. And they really own it. President Trump is definitely onto something. If I were to give some advice to President Trump, it would be for his administration to work out a means through which DEI actually favors Black Americans, especially, and other well-meaning Blacks, including law-abiding Afro-Caribbeans, as opposed to getting rid of it completely because of its abuse and manipulation by a lot of Afro-Caribbeans, Hispanics, Southeast Asians, and South Asians. I am still not happy with the removal of affirmative action at higher institutions. At the core of all of this is the battle between good and evil. The line separating these two is blurry and not black and white. On the other hand, you have extreme white people who want to wipe out Black programs as well. This is a topic for another day. I have no personal animosity towards Afro-Caribbeans, despite my experience with a lot of them in Los Angeles. A lot of them are good-looking Blacks and know how to maintain Black beauty and Black health. I am simply giving my reasonable and objective opinion based on my experience and observation. President Trump has demonstrated and expressed a genuine affection for all Americans, regardless of their race. He is only trying to curb the injustice that has resulted from programs that were ironically designed to address injustice in the first place. This is why I advise my Black American brothers and sisters not to lose sleep over President Trump's executive orders on DEI programs, because you are not benefiting from it at all. That's the end of my article. Well, that's all I have to say for now. Until next time, take care of your lovely selves. And remember, life is beautiful and worth living.